I'm gonna cut it. Cut. Guess what time is it? It's time for another video. I was missing you guys, so I decided to ramble again. Yeah, and I also added another layer of baking paper to diffuse the light. Not sure that worked. You know, slow steps. Anyway, today I'm gonna be talking about a very important subject that is one of my favorite subjects that I also mentioned already, which is why I don't want kids thing. Why I don't want kids. And I made some notes because, as usually, I go all over the place and then I regret things I haven't said. I mean, I regret forgetting things and not going into the in-depth in the subject. But I think it's always going to be the case. There's always something I could, you know, when you think after a conversation, it's like, oh, I should have said that, I should have said something else. So I made notes. But it just never works the way I wanted to. What's happening with my voice today? So, let's begin. That's challenging. Basically, the thing is that I am on my way to, I started a process leading me to hopefully a final decision of getting sterilized. And I mean, hopefully final in a way that, there's always some way it might not work, or some reason for which it might not work. Something can happen and a miracle can happen and suddenly, it fails, like any other method of birth control. So let's just assume that is a permanent decision. So obviously, like many people who try to do that, they know what kind of challenges that and what kind of answers they're getting, especially from medical professionals. And that's, it's one thing to confront people who have no impact on your life and just, they will just be annoying and you kind of have to deal with it. And another thing to confront a professional whose decision depends what's gonna happen to you in a way. So okay, there's many reasons why I do not want to have children. And I think the most important is that, what is this going on now? Shut up! Okay, there's gonna be a cut here. One of the most important reasons is because I do not feel like. And that should be actually more than enough to, as an argument for anyone. It's just, I don't feel like. It's like with any other thing, you just don't feel like doing something, and it's for no one to tell you, persuade you, if you don't have a desire. If you do have a desire but you have a fear at the same time, it's something else, like, oh, I wish I had kids but I'm afraid something, then you can talk about it. But I just do not wish. I just don't want. I never had. There was no slightest bit of me that would love to have kids, and I'm someone who always self-interrogates. Since I can remember, I try to see a subject from different perspectives and analyze and imagine and play with the ideas, and just for fun imagine that I would like to. And it still haven't changed. It's just the way it is. I mean, if somebody doesn't like cats. You're not gonna go and tell them, well, you know, you're gonna change your mind, or one day you will want cats. Like, I'm sure of it. We want cats. You want to have cats, or you will love cats. Whatever. It's not something that people say. Whereas when it comes to children, it just seems to be such an obvious assumption about females, especially because men don't seem to have the same set of questions. Somehow for men not to want to have children is more less frowned upon. I'm sorry, my neighbor is distracting me, so my my words is gonna be all over the place now because I can hear him very well. So I'm gonna have to go and talk to him. It's been only 1 year and 2 months since I'm telling myself that it's fine. I'm fine. I just hate confrontations with some people sometimes. Okay, never mind. I should really work on that. I'm gonna do it this year. It's gonna happen. This is just every time, you know, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm ready. I'm gonna confront him. I'm late somewhere, or I just have to go, and I'm thinking, yeah, whatever. And this year, whatever, it's just been for ages. But he's not even that loud sometimes. It's just I can hear everything, and I'm just annoyed by everything. I should go and live in a forest, and that should be it. Okay, back to kids. So yeah, one main reason is I do not wish, and I don't think that anyone has any right to judge what is happening with my bits, with my body. Bottom line is, it's my body, it's my decision. If you want to do something else with your body, it's your decision, and you're free to do as you please, and I am free to do as I please, as long as it doesn't, oh my god, it doesn't limit someone's freedom. So, let's go to my notes, because I can see this is a very tough subject for me. Yes, this is what I said, that's exactly what I said, and I think also that the final decision in this discussion, as with many other discussions, is not really, it's not about logic. We do make decisions on emotional, in an emotional way. I mean, definitely a lot of people who want to have kids, most often than not, they would, more often than not, I think, or I don't know what statistics are and how do you count it, but I think we can agree that people do have kids based on emotional, reactions on situations, and how, I mean, the whole process of making them is quite emotional, so you don't really kind of sit and logically make decision. I mean, it kind of takes away from the whole beauty of it, right? I don't know. I mean, I think people should make more logical decisions about having kids, but somehow that is not a requirement. So, if an emotion is there and you feel like, and you get baby, nobody's questioning it. But if there is no emotions, like there is no such desire, and you make logical arguments why do you not want to have kids, then somehow it's just not enough. And but in the end, it is something that, like with many discussions, I read this. Sorry, I have a tendency not finishing a thought. I mean that it is to a large degree an emotional decision. So, if your emotion is attracting you to the whole thing, then you're more likely to go for it. And when the first reaction is like, nope, never. So, that's, nobody's gonna change your mind with a logic. That's my point. It's like with any other important thing, really. I mean, take beliefs, take religion, take veganism, take many things. Like I've read a discussion about what was that? Oh, it was about abortion and pro-life and choices and what is murder, and somebody really came with very, very decent analysis, logical analysis, and by law, by logic, by morals, different things. and stating that in certain circumstances, it was okay, basically that abortion isn't murder, and somebody just answered, for long ass article, logically supporting that statement. They just said, well, for me it's murder, you're not going to convince me. Like, I feel like you're not going to convince me this is not murder. And it's like, well, they just logically, they just did, but emotionally they still won't convince them. And this is not to touch upon this subject now, because that's a whole another story, okay? And I'm not gonna now take it out and like dissect the subject. That's a whole different thing. I think I'm just unable to talk about just one thing for a period of time. And also it's my third coffee, very strong, so for once it is in the middle of the night, so that's a progress. I can speak a bit louder, and my neighbor is singing. So yeah, and I also think that's very funny that nobody's gonna question you when you want to have kids. Nobody's gonna tell you, what if you change your mind? What if you change your mind? Then what? What are you gonna do then? Nobody seems to bother too much about, if someone's pregnant, they're not gonna go and say like, oh, have you thought about that? Are you sure? It's just like this whole, everybody's gonna be happy, everybody's supposed to be happy. And I think also, whatever we might think, we don't, it's not welcome and it's not well seen to say, I regret having kids. So I don't think we're gonna hear a lot of that, even if people might think so. And I know that there are people who think so, and there are actually Facebook groups and support groups, whatever, of people who, admit they regret having kids. And then what? Then what? What do you do then? Because, yeah, I guess, there isn't really any way of reversing that. I think it's the same with taking a life away and giving life. These are two decisions that there's really no way you can compromise these decisions, and there's no way you can go around, reverse them, minimize the effects. It's very ultimate. So I think it's only safe. I think it's only, it's normal to have all sorts of arguments not to want to do that, I mean, I'm not even sure sometimes what I want for dinner. How can I make this kind of ultimate decision? And say, oh, I'm not gonna regret it. But that would be if I ever wanted kids. I don't want any. So, that doesn't make sense what I'm saying. It's usually just the case. Somehow people still watched me. Ah, fuck. Oops, that's just all of Yes, I'm a mature human being. I'm totally mature. And I have everything under control. You see? I would be a perfect mother. So, I also think one thing that is really annoying, that people, you're a certain age, and doctors especially would assume you are not possibly able. I think my bra is showing, that's horrible. You're not possibly able to make such a final decision about your life in a certain age, to decide not to have kids, So you're 20 something and you're not like, you're gonna regret it. You might regret it. Somebody else is judging you if you are free to make independent decisions about your body, if you're mature, if you're old or mature or developed enough to make decisions like that about your body. This is a very dangerous assumption for many reasons. And I don't understand why there is why it's so easy to assume that somebody has such freedom and such maturity to decide they do want children, they do want another human being they're gonna be responsible for, but they are not mature enough to decide otherwise. I think it's, it's much more. Um, it's um, it's much more affecting everyone involved to have kids than not to have kids. There is so many things that can possibly. I just can't understand that. I mean, yeah, I can, but I think it's wrong. I just think it's wrong and unfair, and also to make such assumptions. It's a form of abuse. No, but seriously, how would you feel if somebody is telling you talk about your feelings and how you reason and what kind of decision you make, and somebody tells you no, like no, you're not possibly able to make that decision yourself. You're not whatever enough. I think that's just like a little bit unfair, a little bit, to take that freedom away from you, to not grant you that right as a human being of your own reasoning and of your own. I think it's really what's the word? Hurting, but something else, damaging also, almost. That's the way all the abusive relationships, for example, between relationships in a way, yes, later on with couples, but before that might have been with parents, when a parent refuses you the right for your own feelings. There's all sorts of trouble that comes out of it, and taking a narcissist abuse and stuff like that. It's one of the things that they would do. So I'm not saying this is the same thing, but it just thinks a little bit, this kind of attitude. I don't think it's right. Well, then it's a whole thing of. So there isn't really a way you can fight it back. You can argument it back. If somebody tells you what you say is invalid, what you say is, you cannot possibly think like that. You have no. They reject that. There isn't really much you can do. The conversation by definition becomes unequal, and it's very frustrating, and it's very hard not to get pissed off. So, yeah, people don't say that. That's just being an asshole. So then there's a whole meaning thing. Whole meaning, your life doesn't have a meaning unless you give birth. And I also always thought that it's very funny that I'm not saying that men shouldn't have a voice in this discussion. I'm just thinking that it is very interesting to see men, to hear men saying that, because there's no wonder, right? But you have no idea how these things work or feel, or why. Obviously it's it requires much less of a physical engagement in the whole process from a man than requires from a woman. So it's quite easy to say like, to put entire philosophy into biological process, while it's not you who has to actually go for it. So yeah, that's another thing. And then the whole meaning thing. I think my neighbor also lost hope today. He's like, he starts thing and then he stops. I prefer it this way. Oh no, he just started a different song now. Anyway, that's just gonna be a saga until I move out from here, which might be sooner than I planned. So Thank God I have to stop this. Okay, this is not going as smoothly as I was planning, but well, you know, nothing is perfect, and I just know that if I wait for things to be perfect, I will never get them done. So that's why it's a bit chaotic today. Speaking of chaos, one of the reasons I do not want to have kids is because I imagine it to be, you know, to bring a lot of stress factors in your life that I just don't feel like I need. I mean, I'm quite a nervous person. I have to often work quite hard not to get distracted, not to get annoyed. Like anger and impatience, irritation are my you know, things that I work on all the time. Definitely improved with time, and they definitely get much better with extended periods when I practice meditation, things like that. But I definitely do not wish another stress factor in my life. It's hard enough as it is, and I think a lot of quite simple things for some people might be a little bit more challenging for me in certain regards. I do tend to need a lot of silence, peace, quiet, a lot more than maybe an average person. And the whole meaning thing, you know, the whole children give meaning to your life. I think it's a very dangerous idea in many ways to believe that another being is something that brings meaning into your life. And it's the same thing with couples, you know. It's just unhealthy to put that responsibility in a way on somebody else, be it a partner or a child. I mean, can you imagine the amount of ways it can possibly go wrong? The certain expectations we have. We obviously have a certain idea, like, okay, so child would be like this and like that, but what if not? What if it's completely different? You know, what if he resents you, it resents you? There's so many ways things can go wrong that I just don't see why I would like to play that gamble. It's just not something that appeals to me at all. The amount of just the responsibility and work and commitment that it requires. And don't get me wrong, I mean, you know, if somebody is happy having kids, if that makes them feel fulfilled, then fine, you know, that's perfectly fine, as long as they don't shove their their parenthood on me and kind of impose that need to be just a universal need for every human being. Otherwise there's something wrong. This is just you know, I don't get it why, you know, I don't stop anyone from having kids, even if maybe I wish some people didn't reproduce, but you know, they do what they have to do, and I do what I have to do. And I think the planet is fine. I think we're good with the amount of people. I think we're good with the amount of taxpayers. I think we're fine. So I don't think I need to contribute to you know, populating the planet with more humans. Yeah, the meaning I'm just getting from somewhere else. I get so much more meaning from what I do, from art, and I treat that as something, as my gift to the world, as something that will proceed after I'm gone, and hopefully, you know, that's my wish. That's how I see it. So yeah, definitely don't think like my life would lack meaning if I don't have a little creature I have to take care of for another 18 years. Well, then it's not going to be that little, right? But yeah, not something that appeals to me. What else? I'm going to have to talk to my neighbor. Hang on a sec. So, I'm reading from my book of arguments. Oh, there is something very interesting that I've heard, which was basically an interesting way to put it, that a child is not a tool to validate your existence, or a tool for you to find meaning. It's not an extension of you, it's a separate entity. And I think that's something people forget very often. And I think we know all that from first-hand experience, that parents often treat us as an extension of themselves rather than a separate human being. And the separate human being can be just anything, just anything, and you can do nothing about it. I mean, obviously you can do your job as a parent, and then off they go. You don't have a control over them. And also, a lot of decisions, a lot of compromises you have to make. It's something that is not really agreeing with me when I'm trying to make self-loving decisions. I just know that I wouldn't be able to provide myself what I need having a child and having to compromise these things, and that would inevitably lead to resentment, which I think a child can pick up on. Something tells me, and that's just not healthy for anyone involved. And why? And again, this is my perspective. It's perfectly normal to have a different opinion and different values, and see different things as important. Every decision has a price, and every decision has a set of problems that comes with it. And I just get I'm picking my problems as a childless person. And and if ever I wake up one day and I have a strong need to have a child, I think there will be options like adoption to fulfill that need, and I don't see why not. I don't see why it would be less fulfilling. And I really don't think that these first, for me, I never had this connection with babies. Some people feel like they're very cute, and some people feel it's a common knowledge that a lot of people find babies cute, and I do not. I love puppies, I love kittens, I love all animals really, especially little ones, and I think the human baby is the only the only little creature, baby creature that is just not cute at all. I find it quite disturbing. I held a baby once, and all I was thinking of not to drop it. But because parents sometimes, they think, oh yeah, baby, just, hold it, and they just kind of push it onto you, and there's a easy solution for that. You just drop it once and then never do it again. So that didn't happen, by the way. So not liking babies, meaning of life, all the resources that you can just selfishly keep for yourself. So in this way we might say like, oh yeah, this is selfish, but I don't take guilt tripping into, I refuse to be guilt tripped into having babies. That's just another, I think it's a very bad reason to have one, to be guilt tripped into one. What else we've got in this never-ending story and discussion? Oh yeah, there's a whole, who's gonna take care of you when you're old? Because this is not selfish. This is not selfish to think this way. Like, I'm gonna make a creature for myself who's gonna do things for me and take care of me. And maybe you want a servant, or maybe you want a servitor, or maybe you want a good dog who's gonna bring you stuff from the kitchen. I've seen dogs doing that. It's quite amusing. Everything they do is just so cute. So yeah, I don't think that works for me either. Yeah, I mean, also, I mean, that's just you know, the whole biological processes that come of it. I always found quite disturbing and quite revolting. Something I really wouldn't like to put on myself without, you know, willingly. Um, it's just not something that I feel like being done with my body. And it's not just about, you know, the aging process and thinking, oh, you know, I'm gonna have saggy boobs or whatever, because probably will, you know, things happen sooner or later. But so it's not in a vein of um, that I make that decision, but it's just like why? If you know, some people would think, you know, why would you? I don't know. Why would you do a scarification? Because, you know, why would you have to go, you know, oh, I want something pretty, but you have to go through a lot of pain to get that. And you know, some people are ready for this pain and they take it as a part of it, and some people just will think like, well, I just hate the idea of getting something like that done to me, and the prettiness of the result is not enough for me. And in this case, I don't see the prettiness of the result either, so it's quite an easy decision to make. Am I rambling? I am rambling. Okay, that's just the way I am. So yeah, in the end of the day, I think that people who do not want to have kids usually uh, take much more time to think about their decision that a lot of people who have kids, and I'm having kids, and you know, that's why why such an outrage. And especially it's funny to hear people being outrageous about um, your decisions over your own body. I mean, why? How is that affecting them? You know what? Their kids will have no one to play with. I mean, I think there's no such danger. So, and I just take it as another way of people protecting an idea. Um, because if they identify themselves too strongly with an idea, if you come with an opposite idea, a different idea, they don't want to let it in because it's in a danger of their identity. So they're gonna fight you aggressively. If you're so very often people who would have such an aggressive and such an active response on to the opposite idea, it's people who are not very strong in their own decisions, and you feel you look as a threat to them. And it's the same with all the other polarized ideas in the world, which I'm gonna be very gladly dissecting at some point or another. One point or another. Really feels like I can't speak English anymore sometimes. Okay, I guess that will be it. So I'm gonna go and do as I please with my uterus, and you go do whatever you please with yours. So yeah, take care. Oh, and don't forget to tell me why I'm gonna change my mind, and that I'm a bad selfish woman who will never know what full femalehood means, and how it's just a natural order that you cannot fight with. And maybe I'm gonna even go to hell, or if not, then please tell me how wonderful life is without kids once you decided you don't want them. And so yeah, anything, just tell me whatever you think in